So I'm beginning to see our reality in some very peculiar terms. I'm looking at human facial expressions and seeing how the expressions vary and
And by the way, you know, I
coming
sit
upon
on the
some
stand,
very astonishing
and it gets hot.
patterns.
I got hairy legs.
Specifically, I'm finding facial expressions which I can only best describe as caricatures of the artistic portrayals we use to discern between good and evil intent. There is much of this antebellum artwork that exists that seems to connote human form and expression in funny ways. Notice how these demonic entities have their facial expressions in old artwork. Today's video can be seen as a continuation or an update of a previous video I created called Life is a Mandela Effect Simulation 2020 The Spirit World Shows in the Face Volume 4. Link in the description. Now there are some generalizations that people are coming to in discerning a difference between liberals and conservatives. Before you have the image of a liberal. She's upset that an individual named Donald Trump won the 2016 election. Her face shows this expression. One of the generalizations that's being discussed is the consideration that liberals are more likely to take mood stabilizing medications. They may also be more likely to be rated as less attractive. So in this video, I'm going to show you just some more patterns that I've scoured up off the internet and saved in my Twitter bookmarks. Here we have a young Hillary Clinton demonstrating the hysterical facial expression. This is exaggerated excitement. The eyes are wild and maniacal appearing. In a way, this is similar to Adam Schiff's eyes. Very wild-eyed and maniacal appearing. I am then reminded of this artistic rendition of Gavin Newsom. Now notice in this expression of Newsom, he's given the same wild eyes. What this means is the artist of this particular poster had in his or her mind the notion that if a person displays eyes that appear to be wide open and wild like this, sort of looking down, that is an expression of inability to control oneself, maybe a ravenous evil intent. My theory is it is what the artist assumes about a symbol is really representation of the collective unconscious. The artist's selection is representing an external representation of an entity, or maybe just call it a thing, that exists in the unconscious realm. You can think of the unconscious realm as a type of parallel universe. So we have our physical world where we live, and then we have a world that is within our own heads. This world within our own heads is like a representation of the physical world, but it's not the actual physical world. It's more of a conceptual version of reality. Some have likened the astral realm as a type of symbolic unconscious realm where all these ideas take an apparent physical form in that particular realm, not in our physical world. So when I see this, or this, or this, I'm seeing a pattern, an image pattern manifest through this individual, showing us something. Now here we have Queen Elizabeth II smiling, and we see maybe a slightly different pattern. The brow ridge muscles are tightened a bit. The eyes are not smiling. The teeth are bare. Clearly, this smile is a masquerade for a grimace. I'm reminded of Pope Benedict for comparison. See those the tightened brow ridge muscles. Even a more mellowed face, like this infamous man, can still show a degree of excitement in the eyes. The human face can be looked at as having like a resting muscle tone. There are all these different muscles. There's a muscle going around the eyes. There's a muscle here connecting the zygomatic bone. There's a muscle here in the corner of the mouth. All these muscles, in addition to muscles in the cheek, they have like a degree of tension, and that tension can change slightly over time. Our experiences mold our faces because our experiences determine the type of tension we hold in our face. Here's a very, very mellowed facial expression of our current Pope, and even this smile looks sort of odd. There's something about the eyes that seem a bit sinister. I Google searched the term Joe Biden scary smile, and the search engine does not let me down. This is literally the first search return for Joe Biden scary smile. You see the eyes are wild and crazed. You see an exaggerated teeth bare. This is when Biden was on the Democratic debate stage. Very, very good presentation for the front runner on a Democratic ticket. My central argument is simple to understand. What I've come to learn, and this is just a theory, is I think the universe is becoming simpler. The difference between good and evil is becoming more obvious. The symbolic world is basically manifesting into the physical world in a way that is easy to discern with the eyes. Here we have a picture of Donald Trump with our current Countess of Everything Immoral, Ghislaine Maxwell. Looking at Ghislaine's face in this image, I see a hint of fear in the eyes. You see the eyes are slightly offset, not conjugate. Looking at the micromusculature of the orbicularis muscle, there is a slight lifting of the eyebrow, and the face itself shows concern. In contrast, this person appears to be high. She is quite happy appearing. This individual, the young Donald Trump, there doesn't really appear to be any fear. You can argue that this area of this eye may connote fear compared to this right eye. The smile is very broad and normal appearing. Even though I can see some concern in Ghislaine's face, her smile appears normal. Here we have a face compilation showing more wild eyes for comparison. Here we have Bill de Blasio's daughter next to Charles Manson, and both of them above Adam Schiff. This is a pattern. This is a communication by the universe. Just looking for other pictures of Charles Manson, you see that he doesn't always have the wild eyes. Here the eyes are not wild. Here the eyes are still not wild. And here they are. So in determining the relationship of these manifestations in the face to the person, popular things to consider would be the possibility of a type of possession by entity that takes control of the musculature of the face. An alternative explanation would be changes in brain chemicals that result in excessive aggression. The aggressive tendencies start to show up in facial features. Here we have a picture of a young Donald Trump with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, My first immediate question is, why does Trump's hair appear to be like a brownish, reddish color? When you see this smile, does this look like someone you can trust? How about this smile? Forget your political leanings, just look at the faces. What information is being conveyed to you? This type of human behavior is kind of more commonplace. Here's a very expressive person decked with makeup that casts a certain profile. When you see this profile, do you think of it as being cool, reminiscent of someone in the woods wearing camouflage? An appearance of great authority, like a lion? Or do you see that the eyes are a little heavy? The glare is a little strict. Do you see a sinister appearance? How about the little girl? What do you see when you look into her eyes? You don't just see the eyes, you see the facial expression. I am sure she is perfectly content in this instance. She's like a lamb in the lap of a lion. This is a paparazzi photo of Prince Andrew the day after Epstein died. Now we know he was happy and relieved that his connection to the ring of pedophilia had disappeared. But is this a normal glee? Look at the eyebrows. I would say it's almost like a sinister, hysterical type of smile. Here's another very happy Prince Andrew. Is this a normal smile? Is that Britney Spears? Oh, what a lovely smile you have, Prince Andrew.
Smith, an old butt buddy. Are you here, Neil? Neil Smith, an old butt buddy. Are you here, Neil? Smith, an old butt buddy. Are you?
Old Biden says the darndest things. I take this misspeaking by Biden as just another symbol for us, an easy breakdown of reality. Good is very obvious and evil is now more obvious. Here we have this photo of an individual at Comet Ping Pong. It's a man who appears, as I'll describe, sickly satisfied. So he has like a smirk in his face. But if you look at the eyes, it's like he's drunk or something. So it's like a sick satisfaction. That's the emotional connotation of his facial expression. You see a little girl here. She appears to have a frightened look on her face. And you have a woman here who also appears satisfied. There's strain around the eyes. This overall comes off as being mentally altered in some way, maybe with heavy drink or other things. Here we have a BLM protester who shows us that you can have the face covered up and still see that there's something wrong with the eyes, even with glasses that are tinted over the eyes. Just looking at this profile, you see an overly shocked, overly concerned facial expression. You might argue what is too much depends on the context. If a few other shots are taken here. This individual is an alleged pedo. Here is his profile pic for Twitter. You see the snarl there. See the Mickey Mouse ears there. This artistic work is a symbolic depiction of what is happening in our physical reality. We have people who are inhabited by eminences, We call them spirits. You can call them anything. There's things that get inside the person that have manifestations in a person's expression that occur in patterns. You have angels attempting to save a person in this image. Here we have the Angela Merkel looking at Obama lovingly. Here I don't see any particular unusual facial eminences. This appears to be a relatively normal smile and soft eyes. This video, which is a discussion between Oren Stroyer and a protester, perfectly depicts the backwards thinking of a group of emotional people that are depicting the evil side. Now, I'm not saying that these protesters are evil, bad people per se, but what I'm saying is the communication and emotional expression is a language that is teaching us something. It's teaching us about a problem that exists within the world. I'll go ahead and play the clip now.
People feel because it incites fear in all those around us. Every person is afraid of that hat. I'm afraid of that hat. Keep America great. For so many people, that's racism.
Yeah, but that's because of the mainstream media's narrative that's painted Donald Trump as a racist. I don't agree with the narrative. I'm out here to try to share that that narrative is skewed.
As a human being, you should pay attention to fear and not logic.
Wait, you said pay attention to fear and not logic?
Yes.
I should have paid attention to emotions and not facts?
Yes.
Why would I pay attention to emotions when
that are real in this world?
Facts are facts.
Are facts. No, emotions are real. Emotions
No, I
is
think
one
so.
removed from spirit. I find that it is hard to trust others.
You shouldn't trust the mainstream media. You should start listening and
What
looking into
media then do you suggest? That is saying, don't trust knowledge, operate in darkness.
No, go look up facts. Go look up actual statistics and facts. Look up Pew Research.
Emotion is real.
But emotions change, don't they?
So just ponder that exchange. This is all over the symbolic representation of a MAGA hat. The very disturbed young lady emphasized, pay attention to fear, not facts. Here's another video which highlights the good versus evil dichotomy.
Because you're a bunch of slaves yourselves. You're slaves to Satan. You're slaves to sin. You're slaves to drugs. You are slaves.
And of course, the wild-eyed pattern, it reemerges over and over again. Here we add AOC and David Hodge to the mix. This type of gang activity where everyone tries to destroy one individual is now the norm. In contrast, I'll show you the loving reactions of one father with his child. Look at this individual's facial expressions and see how obviously benevolent and wonderful the expressions are.
They need to work on that, right? Yes, okay. Did you understand it though? No. Okay. All right. Oh, no, not this one. This is the grand finale of this. Yeah, that's the last one. That's what I was wondering. I don't know what they're gonna do next season because they did some stuff this time. Exactly what I was thinking. Oh yeah.
The inherent goodness of this interaction is self-evident. Here we have a panel of faces of individuals who were arrested. These were Antifa demonstrators. Look at the faces. We have one wild-eyed person, and we have a very disheveled, sad person, and we have a few faces of lack of concern, like the life has been drawn out, especially this face here. This is also a lack of concern face. But keep in mind, these are mugshots. The timing of getting a mugshot is not necessarily a time where a person would show great concern. A lot of these individuals are just looking forward to the next step to get out of their predicament. Then we have this issue.
Days ago, I found out that not everyone has an internal monologue. So what I mean by that is, they can't hear their thoughts.
In their head, and that's, that's fine. Keep it to yourselves. It's probably better. Hi, I'm Olivia Rivera, and I don't have an internal monologue.
Now, when you look at her facial expressions, what do you see? What is the first thing that comes to mind?
This is something that's kind of been going around the internet lately. If you've seen it, some people have an internal dialogue or an internal monologue where it's more of a constant stream of thoughts. I, on the reverse hand, feel that my thought process is more like sporadic or random jot notes. It's not my voice talking all the time, and it's more like I'm just seeing lines of thought, and maybe they have voices associated to them or tones associated to them, but not necessarily my voice. If you're typing something on a computer and the lines are just kind of like appearing on the screen, I think that's kind of how my brain works, and that's why jot notes feel like.
Does she appear to be possessed to you? Just look at the eyes. Now, some people have a misalignment of the eyes, which we call exotropia, and this misalignment can sometimes cause an illusion of a person appearing to be, we say, glassy-eyed. You may have heard that expression, something overwhelmed you, so your eyes glazed over. Just whatever you're told just did not go through. The eyes were glazed. Here, the person does not appear to be staring at any individual in particular. The eyes are apparently defocused, and they're describing their inner experience as lines of thought. What does this mean in the big picture?
Like the best way to describe it. When I hear that other people have like a constant kind of dialogue and stream in their head, and that when they're doing a task, they'll just be thinking about things the entire time they're doing a task, it actually kind of feels a little overwhelming. Like how do you deal with that, and how does that feel? I always thought it was something that people just manifested and made up for movies and books and characters, just to kind of like explain your inner thought process and like have like a way to explain your inner thought process. But I didn't realize that it was actually that constant for people, that people did actually have a little kind of voice in their head telling them different things and what to do and what to think and stuff like that. I don't have that. Sometimes I will just speak it out loud. I find that, especially when I'm alone, I'll just kind of like, encourage myself out loud versus kind of saying it in my head.
Music lyrics come into my head a lot, and I'll hear the music as the singer sings it. So thinking my thoughts through before I say something, that is something that I never ever was good at when I was growing up. I'd constantly get in trouble, especially my mom. She'd try to kind of instill in me, no, you have to think before you speak, because I would often put my foot into my mouth and say something that I probably shouldn't have said.
When she gives her own personal experience, something I think about is the possibility of humanity being divided into a dichotomy of individuals who are very thoughtful, some extremely thoughtful, versus individuals who are sort of like automatons. They go about doing tasks, the thoughts that they need come into mind when they need those thoughts, and every other thing is not relevant to them. With this type of dichotomy, those with a strong inner voice, they will have a tendency to worry because their inner voice will interpret information in its own narrative. The voice will give its own spin on whatever event is occurring. Whereas if you just have lines of thought, those thoughts may represent computer codes that enjoin you to future tasks or complete the subroutines of previous experiences. Are the non-inner worlders true non-player characters? Or are they player characters with their own unique spin on the processing of the reality book?
As I grew up, it didn't get better. I didn't think before I spoke. It's almost like I just got better at reading the situation subconsciously and knowing what to say and what to respond with. Because I'm not running things through my mind first, it does kind of lose that filter first, and that kind of contributes to the whole, like, people often know what I'm thinking because I will say exactly what I'm thinking. I think it is something that
we should know more about, because I think that helps knowing how other people think. You can kind of react better and maybe expect less or more for a situation.
So this causes me to wonder about the Myers-Briggs typologies. How does this inner experience connect to that classification system? Would you say that those with the inner monologue are more likely to be intuitives versus sensors, or vice versa? If we understood how the inner world related to the apparent manifestations, whether these be apparent demonic manifestations or angelic manifestations, we could further come to understand why the world exists as it does. Why do we have cultic radicalization? Why do our authority figures sometimes have wild appearing eyes? Information is constantly being conveyed to us in patterns. We simply have to determine, what do these patterns mean? Please like and subscribe if it suits you. Peace. Be blessed. Bye.